Well, howdy, y'all. I know I'm late to the party, but with all these new sets and spoilers coming out all the time, I figured it'd be nice to take a look back at Thunder Junction and showcase some budget superstars you might have missed. Every card you see in this list hovers around or under $1. This video is brought to you by the EDH Jank Center, your source for everything Commander and everything Jank, and I am your host, Jordan. Now let's ride on in, partner. Alright, that's enough of that voice. Let's talk about some cards. First card up today is Another Round. It's XX2 and a white sorcery. It says, exile any number of creatures you control, then return them to the battlefield under their owner's control. Then repeat this process X more times. This right here is a late game finisher for Blink decks, man. So for 3 mana, we get to blink our entire board once, and then if we want to do it multiple times, we just got to pay twice X. So if we want to blink our board 1 additional time, we'd have to pay 1 and 1, and then the 2 generic and white, making it 5 total mana to cast. And then obviously it scales up from there. I mean, late in the game, you've got a ton of mana to use, and you need a way to outvalue your opponents and put some distance between you and them. Slam this card down and reap all that sweet value, baby. Just an example for you for some of the cards you could blink multiple times with this card: Charming Prince, Eternal Witness, Muldrifter, Aether Channeler, Felidar Guardian. Need I say more? Well, I can't, because we gotta move on to the next card, which is Deep Muck Desperado. 2 and a blue creature Hominid Mercenary. It says, whenever you commit a crime, each opponent mills 3 cards. This ability triggers only once each turn. Targeting opponents, anything they control, and or cards in their graveyards is a crime, and it's a 2/4. With Thunder Junction came a couple new mechanics and abilities to add to our vernacular. One of them is committing a crime. Like I read earlier, you can commit a crime by targeting opponents or anything they control / in their graveyard. AKA, there's a ton of ways to make all of our opponents mill 3 multiple times. Personally, I think pairing this with Scarab God and making a mill graveyard theft deck would be really cool. Every time we target something with Scarab God's ability, we get a 4/4 copy of whatever we targeted, but also we get 9 new cards to potentially steal from our Desperado trigger. Alright, next up is our most expensive card of the day. It's Caustic Bronco, 1 and a black creature snake horse mount. It says, whenever Caustic Bronco attacks, reveal the top card of your library and put it into your hand. You lose life equal to that card's mana value if Caustic Bronco isn't saddled. Otherwise, each opponent loses that much life. And it has a saddle cost of 3, so you can tap any number of other creatures you control with total power 3 or more. This mount becomes saddled until end of turn, saddle only as a sorcery, and it's a 2/2. Alright, moving on to another new mechanic from Thunder Junction, Saddle, which is basically just crewing but for creatures, but it's a little bit different. Anyways, also we get dope stuff if our saddleable creature attacks while saddled. So Caustic Bronco has got to be my favorite of the bunch because I love being able to hit all my opponents at the same time. Part of that is I have anxiety and hate picking one person to target, but also this is just a generally good way to help you win the game. But what I love about this ability is that even if you don't choose to saddle it and attack with it, you're still getting something good out of the deal in the form of value. Snagging stuff off the top is amazing and gets even tastier when you saddle this thing and flip an Ulamog off the top or something and drain everyone of a ton of life. And hey, extra combats could also be cool, but you know, I'll leave that up to the deck builder's discretion. Alright, moving on to Demonic Ruckus. 1 in a red enchantment aura. It says, enchant creature. Enchanted creature gets +1/+1 and has menace and trample. When Demonic Ruckus is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, draw a card and it has plot for a red. You may pay 1 red and exile this card from your hand. Cast it as a sorcery on a later turn without paying its mana cost, plot only as a sorcery. Okay, forgive me, but I have to do this. Demonic Ruckus is what my mother used to call it when I'd be outside wrangling bulls at the ripe age of 4. Anyways, I absolutely love me a card that does stuff, and boy howdy does this one do the trick. We can plot this for 1 mana and then cast it when we need it for free, which I think is an awesome deal and a really cheeky way to use that first basic mountain on turn 1 if you don't have a better play. On top of that, it gives our creature of choice a buff and 2 formidable keywords, and when this aura goes to the graveyard, we get to draw a card. The utility of this card is certainly causing a Demonic Ruckus in my heart. I'm gonna buy 20. Okay, let's move on down the line to Freestrider Lookout. 2 and a green creature human rogue. It has reach. And whenever you commit a crime, look at the top 5 cards of your library. You may put a land card from among them onto the battlefield tapped. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. This ability triggers only once each turn. Targeting opponents, anything they control, and or cards in their graveyards is a crime. Yeah, and it's a 3/3. First of all, we've got a 3/3 for 3 with reach, which is super solid as a baseline, and then we have an ability that is not hard to trigger once each turn in the right context. This can net us a ton of land and is maybe a fun include in a landfall deck. Yeah, probably. I don't know, man. I also just really love the glasses, and that should be enough to throw it into this list, so yeah, pretty simple tech. Let's move on. And we're gonna move on to Badlands Revival. 3 black-green sorcery. It says, return up to 1 target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. Return up to 1 target permanent card from your graveyard to your hand. Is this the best recursion spell out there? Definitely not, but it has cool cactus people in the art, and also it gets us 1 creature back onto the battlefield and puts another permanent back into our hand. That means artifacts, planeswalkers, enchantments. This can put a creature with a very scary ETB trigger into play right away and get us back another value piece. You know, listen, budget Golgari decks I think could consider running this despite its sorcery speed. I think it nets you enough value for what it costs, which is little to nothing. Alright, let's take a gander at Rodeo Pyromancers. 3 in a red creature human mercenary. It says, whenever you cast your first spell each turn, add 2 red mana, and it's a 3/4. So this is a fun little addition to the pantheon of dope red spell slinging spells. Anyways, listen, whenever you cast the first spell each turn, not just your own, but each turn, we're getting 2 extra mana, giving us more gas to cast more spells, and that's literally never bad in a spell slinging build. Also, with this being at common, can any of my Pauper people tell me if this could be viable in PDH or Pauper? I'm very curious. Also, it has Rodeo in the name, and I can't believe we got a cowboy plane. It geeks me out so much, man. All right, let's move on to Consuming Ashes. 2 black instant. It says, exile target creature. If it had mana value 3 or less, surveil 2, which means look at the top 2 cards of your library. Then put any number of them into your graveyard and the rest on top of your library in any order. Pretty plain and simple here, folks. Not the greatest removal spell in the world, but I think this will serve a great purpose in budget builds specifically. I'm personally so fine with paying an extra mana to not only exile a creature, but also snag some value if it was a smaller one. And in decks that care about surveilling, this will be even better. It reminds me a lot of Bleed Dry, actually. Instant speed, 4 mana dope, budget removal spells. I'm here for it, to be honest. And next up, we're gonna take a look at Visage Bandit. 3 in a blue creature shapeshifter rogue. It says, you may have Visage Bandit enter the battlefield as a copy of a creature you control, except it's a shapeshifter rogue in addition to its other types, and it has a plot ability. So you can plot it for 2 in a blue, which means you can pay 2 in a blue and exile it from your hand, cast it as a sorcery on a later turn without paying its mana cost. Plot only as a sorcery, and it's a 2/2. In our first episode of 5 Cards or Die, which is a podcast series we run here on the channel, by the way, you should check it out, we talked about clones with Chuki from Keeping It Casual, and this is another great one to add to that pantheon. I love the ability to plot this and then save it to cast when the time is right, when the perfect creature has hit the battlefield and is ripe for the taking. Makes it so versatile and unique, and I think I'd readily slot this into not just clone decks, but a ton of my blue decks just for that reason alone. And last, but certainly not least, is Kraum Violent Cacophony. 2 blue-red legendary creature zombie horror. It has flying, and whenever you cast your second spell each turn, put a +1/+1 counter on Kraum Violent Cacophony and draw a card, and it's a 2/3. Now, I love this commander, but I wanted to select this card to talk about how much I dig that they're printing so many sort of nerfed, chill commanders at Uncommon. For players who want to build really straightforward decks, to people who want to get super creative and build with a challenge, there's something for everyone nowadays, and I think that that's really awesome and exciting. Deck building is a form of personal expression. I cannot stress that enough, and I'm just happy that we have so many options at our disposal now. So let me know down in the comments what you think is the most creative way to take Kraum Violent Cacophony. And just like that, we're at the end of this week's video, guys. So what set should I recap next? What are your favorite cards from Thunder Junction? Did I miss anything? I'm always down there in the comments with you guys, so come on down and have a chat with me. And hey, listen, if you'd like to get extra entries in our monthly Discord giveaways, win prizes in our monthly deck building contests, and play spell table games with me and my co-host Cress every month, check out our Patreon in the description below. We've got lots of awesome ways to support. And if you want to snag a Pyramid Designs playmat through our affiliate link, check that out in the description below. If you use our link, you get 30% off your purchase. And for those who may not have the funds but still want to be part of the community, you can always hop in our Discord completely for free and and join our wonderful community of jank lovers. And another free way to support us is by liking and subscribing to the channel and following us on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter at EDH Jank Center. Alright, that's about it for the plug. Now I'm out of here and I'll see you on the next video.